This is Steve Zeltzer with WorkWeek and Pacifica. And today we're going to be talking about a struggle going on in the Teamsters, issues facing Teamsters around the country. And joining us today are three Teamster members from around the country. Jess Lee, who's a member of IBT 728. She is a Teamster in Georgia and Griffin, Georgia preload worker. And she's also on the steering committee of Teamster Mobilize. We also have Colleen, who's with the United Parcel Service, Local 70 in Oakland, and she is also a shop steward on the Teamster Mobilize. And Barry Anderson, who's with Local 856, is a shop steward at Sunsweet and a musician, and he's a member of Teamster Mobilize. So first of all, I wanted to talk about the issue of the recent visit of President Sean O'Brien with Trump, because that has created some controversy in the Teamsters Union about the direction of the Teamsters Union. What your thoughts are about that, and what concerns you have about it as far as what it means to Teamsters and the labor movement.
Overall, this is not an attack or any type of heat towards anybody. We understand the purpose and the intent of engaging different politicians, whether they be Democrat or Republican. We understand that if you're going to engage different political parties, which consists of various politicians, we understand that. That's part of politics in the United States, no problem. The issue is if you're going to do that, why Donald Trump? If you're going to examine or interview different individuals who may have certain political stances, talk to those who are in favor of labor. Donald Trump has showed consistently throughout his career as an entertainer, before being an entertainer, that he does not have labor, or he is not in favor of labor overall, especially union labor. Or I'll just say labor overall, which consists of union labor and non-union labor. So that is right. For me personally, that's troubling. That's not to call out anybody. That's not to say this person is wicked or wrong. What we're saying is, as union members, we have a right to question that. And look at the rhetoric over the last 7 to 8 years and what this man has said, and his actions, his conduct. It calls question. I mean, it's a cause for questioning. Me personally, if you ask me, I'll give it to the next comrade.
I think, like, personally, as Teamster Mobilize, we definitely are going to try and issue out some sort of a petition or a statement. We also plan to try and publicize what other Teamsters want to write about, because I think, like, for me personally, and I know some members of Teamster Mobilize, like, I don't think any politician is a friend of labor. And I think, like, Barry, I think you're almost being maybe a little too nice. I think, like, we can be clear that, like, Donald Trump and the whole state and government works against us all the time. And, they're either murdering people in the cold, or there's, like, the very slow oppression through, like, wage slavery and other ways that they're slowly just trying to kill us off or make our lives very bleak. And that is what puts them in the positions they are. And to see, like, Sean O'Brien cozying up with Trump or even Biden is not something new, but I think as nothing new as far as, like, unions collaborating with the government more so than fighting for the interests of workers, like the Teamsters' relationship to Israel, because it's very clear that they were smuggling union dues to arm the Israeli military that ended up committing, the genocide and ethnic cleansing and Nakba. Like, it dates back all the way to Jimmy Hoffa in the 40s. So I think, like, we know that we've seen time and time again that, like, union officials will decide to cozy up to these politicians. And then it's our responsibility, I think, in these moments to try and make that larger lineage of, like, of unions siding with the politicians. So that's personally my opinion. And I think that like we would need a whole new sort of party. But that's also not going to be everybody's opinion. So I think with Sean O'Brien, meeting with Trump, if there's maybe certain groups of workers who might not necessarily see the basis for like socialism or communism or revolution, but they at least know that this guy is like, completely like a misogynist and racist and obviously there's the whole immigration issue, but again, I think that's uniform. I think every president has only exacerbated immigration, so I don't think it's particular to Trump. But if there's groups of workers that want to come forward and maybe just condemn him on these reasons, I think we should just encourage to flood the gates and have sort of maybe a variety of stances. So that's kind of my take. I'm glad you're asking this question because we're not going to keep our mouths shut about this photo.
Well, it's, disturbing because during the time he was president, he made a lot of racist comments against Latinos, against Blacks, against Asians. It led to attacks on Blacks, immigrants, Asians, working people in this country. And many of our unions have large numbers of Black, Asians, and Latinos. In fact, construction trades have a large number of Latino workers. Yet there was complete and total silence by the national leadership of all the unions, not just the Teamsters, all the unions challenging him on his racist campaign, which I find very dangerous because a union should be defending its members. It should be fighting racism, in my view. It should be fighting discrimination. It should be standing up for the members. I mean, there's an epidemic of hanging nooses around this country being put up in work locations. Silence about this thing.
I feel like unions, they were created to fight for equality, to fight for oppressed people, to fight for better against capitalism, against bosses, against people that their only interest is to take from the working class. And that is the exact opposite of Donald Trump's interest. He holds the exact opposite. He wants to prop up capitalism. He wants to serve his own personal interests. That is not what we stand for. And we believe that everybody should be treated equally, regardless of race, religion, sexual orientation. Donald Trump hates all of those things. He's made that very clear. He stands to crush anything that that stands to reason that people should be treated equally, for not fitting into this box of essentially being white and straight, and that's what our country is. And his views against minorities are just disgusting. Some of the things that I've heard people say in response to that is also disgusting. I live in the South. Those views are prevalent in these areas, and we have to act against that. We do not need to entertain for 1 second that those things are okay. Those things are not okay. And we're not going to sit down for a meal. That's not cool. We're not going to act like we're friends. We're not going to take a photo. Any invitation to sit down with Donald Trump should be met with exactly why we won't entertain that and exactly why we're going to fight against what he stands for. We're not entertaining that. That's not what the working class people want. We do not have the same interest. There's even people that will vote for Donald Trump, and Donald Trump is not going to serve those people's interests. How he gets the woman vote is beyond me. He hates women. He thinks women shouldn't have the right to their own bodies. Our union should not even be entertaining a sit down, much less a meal, much less a photo op. No, you want to exchange a letter publicly denouncing this man and put that out to your members. And you can do the same damn thing to Joe Biden and let him know we don't stand for a genocide. We don't stand for that. An injury to one is an injury to all. That doesn't just apply to your fellow Teamsters. That doesn't start or stop when you clock in or clock out. If you believe that, that's what you believe in your heart, and that's what you fight for, and you do it for all people. And Donald Trump is the exact opposite of any of those things, and he can go to hell.
Donald Trump is the enemy of the people. He is the all-out enemy. And it's very concerning that our leadership is entertaining conversations with Donald Trump. It's a cause for concern because we don't know what that conversation was about. I can assume, and I can assume for everyone here, it wasn't on behalf of working people. It wasn't for us to benefit. So yes, I agree with my comrades here. Why are you entertaining Donald Trump? And we demand an answer.
And the issue of education in the unions about the danger of racism, sexism, these kind of Islamophobia, the attack on immigrants. It seems like the union should be taking up that as unions and having classes, having educations. They should be mobilizing members. MLK weekend, and we face the danger of this racist union buster becoming president again, who wants a dictatorship. He wants to rule above the law, and yet the unions are not mobilizing politically to educate their members. So it seems like whether it's the Teamsters, SEIU, CWA, there needs to be a revitalization that we have to confront these issues if we're to survive.
Yeah, and I think our motto is like, we're not going to be sleeping and waiting for the leadership to, make a step or like to take that up. I think that's very clearly like the role of needing to have organizations like Teamster Mobilize or the larger coalition of Labor for Palestine that, has been around for 20 something years. And obviously we know here in the Bay Area that like the ILWU has probably a collectively much higher like class consciousness when it's coming to taking these stands. So we have these models to emulate, but it is going to be up to us, the rank and file, to try and push that forward. Now, am I totally against all forms of leadership? No. I mean, like even there were some elected officials who reached out to us who also wanted to condemn this picture with Sean O'Brien. If we pass that opportunity up to work with them because we are like purist about rank and file only, I think that's a mistake as well. So just to add to that, like, I do think it's going to be us who are going to have to like push forward a strong political line, but I'm also not opposed to, in this protracted struggle, to try and utilize the divisions in the leadership as much as we can, like to try and show the cracks. So that's sort of my opinion on that, Steve.
And I mean, as far as racism workplace, have you seen any examples of that, and how does it affect trying to organize a union, a strong union? Because historically, companies, bosses have used racism to prevent unionization. In fact, in San Francisco, at one time, the ships were segregated. There were no blacks on the ships. There were no black longshoremen. And one of the things that Harry Bridges did is he went to the black community, the black churches, and said, if you support this strike, because they had been used as scabs in the past, I'll make sure that you become members of my union. And he kept his promise. They had a successful, not only maritime longshore strike, but they had a general strike in San Francisco that shut down the city, and they won that strike. And they have a union hiring hall, union shop. So that was a success by bringing workers together. I mean, I think that obviously a lot of companies have moved to the South. They're non-unions, it's illegal. I mean, it's very difficult to form a union. Workers can be fired for simply, and it happens in the North as well, saying that you want a union. It's supposed to be illegal, but people are fired all the time, particularly at Amazon. So, I mean, the question of union rights and a strong labor movement uniting all workers, I think, is critical if we're going to organize at Amazon and other places all over this country.
The only way that we go about that, we can't no longer sit and wait for some type of legislation to go in our favor. The working class, we have to act. Activism. We have to be militant. We have to provoke. We have to be aware of what's going on in our environment, in our communities. And we have to bring the issue to those who can influence those who write the laws. But we have to get a movement started, a movement. It's time to get active. It's time to move. No longer waiting. No, I don't want to wait anymore. It's time to do something about it. And the only way that we're going to be effective is we move on it. You know what I'm saying? Educate one another, talk to one another. You know what I'm saying? Formulate rallies, protests, get active on social media. Social media is a tool. You know what I'm saying? More consciousness. Connect the social struggle, the labor movement with connected with many different other struggles. So that's the problem. That is the problem in America. What those in power, those who control wealth, those who control the information that's going out, they have done a damn good job of disconnecting these other movements. They've done a damn good job. When MLK was living, he connected the civil rights movement with the labor movement. That's what made him very much more effective. He connected the labor movement and the civil rights movement with the industrial military war complex, or the military industrial war, you know what I mean? But overall, we have to make a connection that oppressed people, we are in the same boat, and divided we fall, but united we stand. And I'll fall back.
I mean, MLK was killed trying to organize unions, AFSCME workers in the South. And also he was killed shortly after he made a statement about the Vietnam War, saying that the United States should not be killing Vietnamese, killing Americans by sending them to Vietnam. And today we face a possible war in the Middle East. We have a war on the Palestinians, on Gaza. Bombs, bullets, rockets are being sent from the United States to Israel to commit genocide, in my view, against the Palestinian people. And we have, it seems, an unlimited amount of money in the United States for war. They wanted to bring Congress back to pass more money for Ukraine and Israel. Billions and billions of dollars. There are trillions going for war. Yet in this country, you have homeless, you have people that can't get health care, you can't get proper education. You have to pay for education, college. Kids are going into debt. It seems like this war that's going on, and the wars abroad with 800 bases all over the world, is not really benefiting working people here or anywhere else in the world.
You know, war has like become like some type of business to capitalism. Like it goes hand in hand, and they're all, it's sickening because they're all profiting off of it. That's why it doesn't benefit anyone, because it doesn't benefit the majority of people. It benefits very few people that sees it as an opportunity to profit. And it's not what American people need. And we do really all have to come together, because it is like a fight, 99% of us against 1%. And the power lies within the people. And we have to educate people and get people to acknowledge that and embrace that, and empower them to do something with it and to act. And yeah, we have to form all these coalitions with these unions, because like Barry said, they keep everything kind of in its own tiny little compartment, and you're only supposed to worry about what's in your little box, and we're not going to fool with anything else. And that's just a lie that's come from capitalism, that they want people to believe, because then it keeps them out of anything else besides what's in their little box. And we can impact change on a bigger level. We do need to care about all those things, because it's all tied together. And you know, we need to weave it all together and get everybody involved, so that we can take our country back. Because like you said, Steve, we have all this money to fund wars and police training camps, i.e. Cop City. We have endless amounts of money for that, but we have people that can't get fed and can't get housed. And I don't believe it's not a working class problem. It's a capitalism problem. It was created and it's been purposely done to the people. And until we do something about it, it's going to continue to get worse. So yeah, we all have to team up. We all have to come together and fight for like the greater good.
Yeah, and I think like just like the way to fix that capitalist problem is by having like having the working class in particularly in combination with a communist party or some sort of revolutionary party to like overthrow that. And the working class is, what's where all their money comes from. Like there's sort of like there's a relationship between the two. In order for there to be capitalism, there needs to be this body of workers who are being exploited. So yeah, it's on us. That's like empowering. That's like huge to know. And then we have to work as members. All three of us are part of the industrial proletariat. We need to bring in our coworkers to try and, as y'all are saying, our enemy wants to obscure that these things are so obviously interlinked, because they know once we do that, like, we can achieve something like so unimaginable, that it's really so hard to come by, that because we've constantly been put down to just escape forms of escapism, or feeling like nothing's ever going to change, or even thinking that like capitalism's been around forever and not realizing that these things, there is a development. And I think even with like Cop City, like we were talking about in our Teamster Mobilize meeting, trying to also like talk about that a bit more, we have to, full disclosure, we have to do a bit more research about how exactly all the funding is. But, imagine if you're a UPS worker and your own kin or your child or yourself gets murdered by a police officer. Like, your boss is our boss. UPS is giving us chump change, compared to all the billions that it makes. And then from that chump change that we're getting, that money is putting into this training facility that then maybe directly like impacts their family member, like I said, like maybe through either serving time, life sentence, being murdered. And that sucks. Like, what? Like, we don't have to accept that. And I feel like if we can try and sort of link these things together, and we're committed to that.
At the same time, you have trillions being spent by the United States on war. The situation of workers, you couldn't even get under Sean O'Brien $25 an hour minimum wage. A minimum wage of $25 an hour. That's not enough to live on in a lot of places, but you couldn't get that. It seems like the billionaires who really run the United States and run the world control these union officials. They don't want to fight the system. And it seems like it is a system problem. It's not just this person or this company. It's the way the system operates. And we were just at a rally at Elon Musk's Tesla plant in Fremont against systemic racism, sexism, against union busting, in solidarity with Swedish mechanics who've been on strike for over 2 months at the Tesla service centers. And here's the richest man in the world. And we found out that there's some workers there that make $17 an hour at that plant. So, how do you live in the Bay Area? And they were Spanish speaking. They were Mexican, Latino workers. So the exploitation of workers is not to increase the betterment of workers, but to increase his profit. And he has so much. And he wants more. And that's why he's been firing workers who want a union. They fired 700 workers, UAW supporters. And that's happening all over the country. You try to organize at Amazon, you get fired. Those workers are getting fired. You try to actually vote for a union at Starbucks. 330 stores have voted for a union, and Starbucks is saying, we're not going to sign a union contract. We're not going to negotiate. And at the same time, the Starbucks and these companies are investing in Israel. They support the war machine. That is, that they're benefiting from the war machine. And it seems like the unions in this country, there's a debate now about whether or not to take a position on this war on Gaza, whether unions should take a position on the war on Gaza. And the AFL-CIO leadership has not said anything. They talk about defending Israel, defending the Jews who were killed on October 7th. They don't talk about the massacre of over 23,000 people, the killing of journalists members of my profession who are trying to get the story out, who've been targeted and assassinated. Shireen Abu Akleh, who is a Palestinian-American journalist who was covering the situation in the West Bank. She was assassinated. No investigation. She's an American citizen as well. So and journalists have been targeted because they're telling the truth. Yet my union has organized no mass movement to say you have to be held accountable. And it seems like that's one of the reasons Israel is getting away with what they're doing. They're not being held accountable. They have a freedom to do what they want, massacre, genocide, and it's all okay. Paid for by the United States. So how do you see the future? You're organizing Teamster Mobilize. You're beginning to reach out. You fought against this concession contract, and what you said has been verified, that it wasn't the great deal that the IBT leadership and John O'Brien said. He kept the agreement secret, and the agreement hasn't really changed things for a lot of Teamsters. In fact, AI, automation, is being used to get rid of Teamsters all over the country. That doesn't seem to be an issue in the Teamsters. Fighting the introduction of AI, which is going to eliminate millions of jobs. I mean, Goldman Sachs said 350 million workers in the world may lose their job as a result of AI. What has to happen in the Teamsters to transform the union, along with the rest of the labor movement, to deal with this crisis that we're facing?
That is the big question. And I think like we sort of put some big stuff on the table in our earlier comments of like, you know, personally thinking that like there does need to be, we do need to build up to having a genuine like communist, like non-revisionist party in the United States. That's going to take some time. So I think
what about a labor party? Because
yeah.
much less a communist party, in the United States, we don't even have a working class party. In other words, the choice that we face 2024 is the Democrats and Republicans. Those are the two major parties. So the framework is a debate between the Democrats and Republicans. It's not between a communist party. It's not between a labor party and the Democrats and Republicans. It seems like there's a dangerous political vacuum in this country where working people don't have a political alternative. That's all they see, Democrats and Republicans. That's why they're so angry and pissed off.
Yeah, and I think, but in order to have this like independent working party actually be effective, Steve, like there does need to be a communist party or some leadership that sees that larger goal. Because if that isn't there, then the worker party can quickly just become another Democrat and Republican like body. Let me read. There's actually this from the Labor Herald, which was a publication in the 1920s, and the Trade Union Education League, which was a part of the Communist Party or appendage of or something of that sort. There's this quote, just give me, it says, what kind of party? And maybe I can link it to you after and we can have it chimed into this video. It says, the problem of what kind of a party should or could be created at this time is of vital importance. There are some general requirements which can be stated. The Labor Party must be definitely rooted in the economic needs of the workers, must be a party of the working class, yet it must be broad and inclusive enough to take in all the various political parties and groupings of labor. This first is essential to its existence. Past history of third parties in American politics has surely demonstrated clearly enough that a miscellaneous collection of people with a grievance is not a basis upon which a permanent party can be founded. The rock of working class interests is the only possible basis for a powerful new party in America. On the other hand, it must make every effort to bring into its confines all the existing working class parties. Not only must there be no exclusion of any group or groups, but there must be a positive effort to unite in common action all forces of the labor and the political field. A political united front of labor against the capitalists is the need. Anything short of this will not meet the historical situation. And I definitely, there's a lot to learn, so I don't want to like come off with any airs that I have the answers. It's forums like this, and even the little disagreement we had that like we're able to, engage in figure out what the longer path should be. And clearly here, the Labor Herald is saying that, okay, we can't be exclusionary in whatever sort of working party that we have. We do need to have a united front, but it also is very clear that there does need to be some sort of centralized party, like I said, that can, or a communist party alongside it, that can keep our eyes on that larger goal, and actually have like the interests of the working class in mind. But look at our current, look at the Democrats and Republicans right now, or any sort of politician, or like any progressive, like the AROC, or like AROC and all the squad, like they kind of parrot and already sloganeer that they're looking in the interests of the working class. So am I proposing that there needs to be sort of some high expectations of making sure that this is not just the fluffy like version of working in the interests of the working class? Yes. So I think that's, but there's a lot of popularity growing. A lot of people aren't voting. And I think that it's exciting that we are engaging in debate of like what this sort of party should look like.
I agree. There has to be some kind of labor party. The two options we have, it's just sad that it's come to be commonplace.
I agree. When it comes to that, maybe what Comrade Colleen was mentioning, some type of front, some type of group to help lead this party. Education is key. Before you start a revolutionary movement, education is a must. It is mandatory. Like Vladimir Lenin said, without revolutionary theory, you can't have a movement. So what we need to do, union labor, non-union labor, we need to find ways to create some type of faction, some type of pillar, some type of leadership to influence, to provoke, and to educate the rest of the masses. That is what we need to establish first. I agree. I understand that. And yes, I am a socialist, or you can call me a commie too. I rock with all of it, right? So overall, I think once we educate the masses of the people, because it's more people than those who own wealth and who control things. Once we organize through education, then the movement can be much more effective. And unfortunately, right now, there needs to be a different shift. We need a shift right now, because the Democrats and Republicans and what we've been getting ain't much. It's not doing this any type of justice. So right now, we need to act, and we're just going to have to educate on the way of acting. So that's why we need more brothers and sisters, more comrades who are educated, who are aware, to step up to the plate and help lead this movement. It's not about, this is a movement that's going to consist of all of us who are able to lead by example. It's not about who's the leader. No, leaders lead by example. So we're going to have to act swiftly, because if we just keep sitting here and talking, nothing's going to get done. And we're going to continue to get what we've been getting. Democrat, Republican, Republican, Democrat, Donald Trump, Biden. Or overall, we're going to get fascism. And right now, fascism is the enemy of everybody. So we need to figure out how effective, we need to figure out overall how to move and how to act. And the time is now. But as we move, we have different people playing their positions. We got these brothers and sisters leading this part, these brothers and sisters leading this part, and so forth. And as we're moving, there's an education movement. As we're moving forward and progressing. And then there's children that's under us. Teach the children, because that's the future generation. These new laborers on my job, it's a whole bunch of teenagers in my job who just graduated from high school. We have to educate them, because they are the future to help carry on this movement. So there's so many things that need to be looked at and examined and actually happen for us to continue to move. But right now we have to move. And I'm going to mute.
And one of the things, of course, about this United States is it has a rich working class history of workers' struggles in fighting for workers' rights, fighting against segregation, fighting for an 8-hour day. And in 1877, there was actually a commune in St. Louis during a railroad strike where the workers took over St. Louis. Most workers don't even know that. There was a general strike in New Orleans of workers, black, white, Latino, all workers came together. So there is a history of struggle, of united struggle of the working class in this country, which is hidden by the corporations, by the Democrats and Republicans. I think, though, that these struggles that we face, like against war, is a way of educating people. This war is supported by both the Democrats and Republicans. Would a working class party support war? That's a question. If you are against this war, how can you support parties that are for the war? That's the question. Which says that we should spend billions more for war. The other question is fascism. There's a danger, in my view, of a fascism in this country. There is a danger of a civil war. Are working people prepared for a civil war? If they're not prepared, what is being done to educate people about the danger of civil war? I think we need a united front against fascism to educate people, because what was unleashed by Trump and right-wingers who want a fascist government when he was in power were massacres, were people going and shooting blacks, gays, Jews. That could expand, and it will expand as we go into this period. What are the unions doing to prepare, to organize, to educate people? It's like empty. And I think that's one of the issues of how a working class party will form. I don't think it will form by, just saying things, rhetoric. It will be formed by organizing people where they are, on the shop floor, on the street, by mobilizing them to defend themselves. And I think that's why this movement, labor movement against the war, is so important, because it's bringing all kinds of working people together. In the Bay Area, there's a signal group of over 400 healthcare workers from all the hospitals, nurses, doctors, interns, dietitians, from General Hospital and Kaiser and all the HMOs coming together and saying, we have to fight together against this war. And that hasn't happened in my lifetime, actually, where workers from all different unions come together over an issue and saying, we're going to organize politically. That's where Labor for Palestine has developed. But I think it's expanding in this country, and it's breaking down the barriers that workers have. We should not have barriers. We should be together, united, and debating and discussing and organizing. I think that's how a process towards a political development can take place in this country, and is starting to take place.
It definitely takes like slow, patient work. And I agree with you that we can't just speak these things into existence. And that's, partly why all of us are, why we are not ashamed to be working class people. And we are committed to seeing that our sites of our workplace can be areas where we can, eventually try and break all our chains and whatnot. But we're not at the point yet where just saying things like, for example, I had mentioned some of these old newspapers back in the 1920s, and obviously there was much more talk about sort of socialism and communism because there was the revolution happening in Russia. So it was kind of like more in the air. And there's cartoons in a Daily Worker where there's these workers on a lunch break and they're reading a paper and it says Bolshevism, and the workers are like, that's us. That's not where we're at right now. I'm aware of that. But I think through the things like our contract campaign, with the vote no, or trying to pass this resolution for Palestine, we for an end of, for a permanent ceasefire and a divestment from funding and an end to this ethnic cleansing, we are pushing that forward, even though we know, we've seen over the last 20 years, okay, resolutions are passed. There's been some ceasefires, recently, 7 days, and then, it didn't take long for the bombing to continue. I think we know that these participating in a vote no campaign or trying to push forward a resolution aren't necessarily gonna tomorrow. We know that won't lead to tomorrow okay, we have a new society and we're all we're there. No, but these are worth doing because we have so many like tidal waves against us, telling us like that's not our place and whatnot. So and with that being said, our resolution that we put forward to TDU is being voted upon on January 20th. We provided an opening that still can be seized upon. And as we said in our convention report, this isn't some aberration in the labor movement. It's something our comrade Tony said. It actually really shows how much the Teamsters are aligned with Israel. And when I brought up that stuff about Hoffa, that can be found in Joe Allen's recent article about the IBT and its relationship to Israel. Like, it's so clear that that's the position they're taking. And maybe we're the minority, but we need to still speak out, even if it might take another long while for the Teamsters to all be, realize our power. Yeah, I hope that was
So
clear.
you fought in TDU for a resolution at their convention?
Yes, we did. And we have a whole, like a 2-hour report on our YouTube that people can watch. We also were on the What the Heck show, but then it got uploaded to Teamster Link.
And what was the response of the TDU leadership to your resolution?
Jess, you want to get in there so we can take some breaks?
As far as TDU leadership, I guess really the only member of leadership that I had like any opposition with was a member of the steering committee, Sean Orr. He may be a co-chair now, I'm not sure. And there were some other people in leadership, David Levine and Ken Taft, that called several of our members beforehand. And there was a lot of intimidation that we received before we ever came to the convention. The very first call said, you guys can't have any materials at the hotel. Like he owned the hotel or something. You guys can't bring any materials. What are you guys coming for? Like we had some kind of ill intent. And we were told that resolutions weren't really a thing that went on at the TDU convention. Just a lot of intimidation and pressure not to bring forward resolutions, not to bring any materials. One of our members was banned from coming because of her criticism of TDU and them aligning with the IBT during the contract. And then another one of our members was basically told that it was too late to sign up. Although I heard that some people were able to sign up like the day of. So that was a little intimidation and pressure that we received. Also, some of our members were mistreated by leadership at the convention. My run-in with Sean Orr, he very adamantly would not take our third resolution. We had 3 that we were trying to bring forth, and there was a little bit of a mix-up on our end. 2 is how many he got initially. When I was able to get the third one to him, he made several arguments. One being that it was untimely. I kind of, defended each argument until he led up to, well, on behalf of the steering committee, I'm saying no. After he didn't have anything else to stand on, he just outright said no, would not take the resolution. He was very cold and cruel during the exchange, had no sympathy for the cause. I was very passionate about why it was important. It was a resolution on pay parity. We all know that, you know, the people they exploit the most and like the cash cows is like gig workers, are workers that, you know, are that have a, you know, 2 letters in front of their job, you know, PT instead of FT, you know, and that automatically drops you way down in wage. You know, if somebody determines that you're part-time, well, you're not worth shit. So yeah, but trying to fight against that and, you know, get people's wages up, not just UPS workers, but plenty of workers that are making well below what you need to survive. And that's why you have so many people that are, you know, kind of piece working, doing 1, 2, 3 different streams of income to try to even keep their head above water. You know, and it's just sad what's being taken from people to prop up the elites and capitalism and war and just senseless stuff that is definitely not in the interest of working class people. But sorry, that was getting a little bit away from the TDU. But
Well,
you asked about,
did TDU just
asked about leadership.
did TDU discuss Amazon? Because when Sean O'Brien was running, he said he was going to organize Amazon. There was going to be a high priority to organize Amazon, which is a danger to working people. It's unorganized and it's a danger to Teamsters. Was there any discussion at that convention and any national campaign to organize Amazon and what that would entail as far as bringing together all workers, all unions to get that place organized?
Yeah, there was a workshop. I can speak to that. But I do want to, while we're on the record, I also want to bring forward that even though we had that you know, very we won't forget, you know, the way that you know, Sean Orr just completely shut down Jess as she's in literal tears, a fellow worker fighting for our best interests. Now he actually, him and I'm sure whatever sort of like group or like other coworkers, I'm sure there's, you know, more than just him, but I'm not there. But we all saw on social media that they did try and also put forward a resolution for a ceasefire at their local in Chicago. So I'm like, I really hope, and if you're watching this, Sean, that we can like cast aside any sort of grudges, and like if you tried to push your resolution in Chicago and it failed, okay, we have this opportunity at TDU where we already pushed it forward. You could vote. Imagine like I hope, you know, he comes around and we can try and see that if TDU maybe gets a popular vote, it'll only like make it potentially that might impact how we're trying to push resolutions in the IBT proper. So I just wanted to like, because we do want to put on a little bit of a pressure campaign. As far as the Amazon work, the Amazon stuff, yeah, there was a whole workshop, and I think like, you know, the IBT does have a program set up where they're hiring salts and they're going in and I think the devil is in the details as far as like when the time comes to start waging demands and actually it all comes down to strategy. I mean, it's great that I mean, it's very important that our union density is so low, and the fact that the Teamsters are going into Amazon should be supported. But like at the convention, you know, the whole workshop was talking about how much we need to support salts and how much, you know, we do need to, the best way to unionize is to have people in there. I agree. We have a Teamster Mobilize member who had one of those positions, and then she'd gotten fired from that due to flying for the no vote at a different local's building than her own. And so she's no longer a IBT Amazon organizer because she was fighting for more for us as UPSers. Oh no, she'll make an awful candidate for trying to fight for stuff. You know what I mean? It's just completely ludicrous. And they shut that down in the meeting. It was they didn't want to hear us. They backtracked saying how much they so that was kind of what we experienced. We tried to ask some questions, and that's what came of it. And but she's still working at Amazon, and she's not given up. And whether she's a IBT paid organizer or not doesn't derail our comrade from continuing what she and others are doing.
One of the lessons of the 1930s, which was the largest organizing effort in the United States history, was that they didn't wait for the NLRB. In fact, there was no NLRB at that time. They went on strike, and thousands of unemployed people joined it, and they surrounded plants. They surrounded auto plants. They surrounded parts plants. Workers closed the plant. And that was an action that won. That forced General Motors to sign a contract with the union. They didn't want the UAW in those plants. But when 10, 20,000 workers surround the plant, they don't have a choice. And I think that kind of action, we talk about the lessons of history. That's how workers organized in the 30s. They didn't do it through the government. They did it by mobilization of the entire working class. And I think that in the case of Amazon workers, like at JFK, that place that they're organizing, they're firing workers. I mean, the workers have to say to the capitalists, we're going to close you down, and you have to sign a contract, or you're not going to operate. But that means a fight with the government, with the politicians who say, go to the NLRB. But workers have been going to the NLRB. Thousands of workers have been going to the NLRB. It goes nowhere, because that was why the NLRB was set up. It was set up to take away struggle. Also, a lesson we can learn from Tesla workers in Sweden is they don't have a Taft-Hartley, which bans solidarity action. So the dock workers are refusing to unload Tesla cars. Sanitation workers are refusing to clean up these service centers. The postal workers are refusing to deliver license plates of Tesla cars. So that kind of solidarity is the kind of solidarity that forces companies to either sign a contract or get out. And I think that kind of solidarity is what we need to build a new working class movement. That when workers go on strike and they're organized, all workers come together to support them. And I think in the case of Amazon, there needs to be an appeal for all workers, all unions to come together. We were just out at Tesla. We tried to get the UAW 2865 to support it. Just give a statement of solidarity. They have a couple thousand members at UC Berkeley. Didn't want to do it. I mean, on MLK Day. So if you're going to reach working people and unite them, you have to be out there saying what your views are, saying how you're fighting for workers, saying why you have to stop union busting, you have to stop the racism, the sexism at the Tesla plant, and rallying the entire working class. I think that's if you want to build a labor party, a workers' party, that is how you're going to do it. Actual struggles that are going on to organize is an important part, because the Democrats and Republicans, they don't want us organized. That's why they pass the laws that make it difficult. That's why there's no enforcement. I know in California, there are less than 200 health and safety OSHA inspectors. So when you're overheating in a truck or in a field, there's no OSHA inspectors saying to the employers, the bosses, you have to protect these workers. People die. They're dying. In fact, they're dying at the Tesla plant in Texas that they're building. Construction workers are dying. No enforcement. So, I mean, workers need to enforce the rules and the laws, but relying on the government to do it is not happening in this country right now.
And to add with that, that is true. The whole working class, which consists of non-union labor and union labor, have to come together. This issue is not going to be solved by a handful of labor leaders. No. It's not going to be solved with a few union locals. No. It's going to take a mass movement of the working class. Everybody has to play their position. And the thing is, it seems like the labor leaders, for some reason, they don't want to organize and mobilize the whole working class. Want to know why? Because it threatens their power. They lose control. And like Sister Colleen was just speaking earlier, this faction, this leadership within this independent party, we have to be able to stress that and teach that to the masses of the people. Because leadership at one time, leadership is supposed to fear the people who put them in office. But unfortunately, leadership, they don't even respect the people who put them in office. And that goes with union leadership as well. The people who put them there, they should be speaking on our behalf. They should be making sure that we get the benefits. That's what they sell to us when they run, don't they? So now it's time for the workers, everybody, to come together and organize and make a stand. Because if we don't, then we're going to continue getting what we've been getting.
I'll just add a little bit on what Colleen said about the resolution. You know, as far as disagreements with a fellow Teamster, what's important is that we find issues that we all can unite on, right? There's going to be some that we don't unite on, and there's going to be some that we do. And let's grasp those that we do, right? And I don't care if we disagree on something else. If we can unite on this one issue and work together and push that forward, let's do it. I'm all about that. So working with anybody else to get anything done within our union regarding a resolution for Palestine, I am all for that kind of collaboration. I don't care who gets it done, how it gets done. I just want it done. And then, you know, really a resolution is the floor, right? Getting them to sign on and acknowledge the resolution, like that's just the first step. So there's plenty of work still from there, but it's all about, you know, let's get that done first, and then that gives us something to build on. So I'm all about collaboration. We may not agree with each other on everything, or other unions or other organizations, but there's a lot of stuff that we do agree on, and that we can collaborate on and bring about those changes together.
Okay, well, I want to thank you all for joining us on Work Week, and I think this has been an important discussion. It needs to be an ongoing discussion, and I think we're facing exciting times, dangerous times, but in the struggle, people learn. They learn about who's who and who their friends are, who their enemies are, and how to win these struggles. So thanks for joining us on Work Week. Solidarity, brothers and sisters.